Hi, friends. It's good to be back to share another message with you again this month. And today I'm going to be sharing some personal stories about my unique family with you. So here we go. I live in a multi-generational home. You know, people will ask me, how many kids do you have? And I'd often respond, well, we have 2 kids, but I cook for a family of 7 as my parents live with me. So let me tell you how it happened. All my life growing up, my parents had lived on a farm in Nebraska, and they spent their days farming corn and beans and raising cattle and baling hay and gardening. But when my dad turned 60, he and my mom decided to become missionaries to Africa. They ended up selling everything that they had, and they moved to Africa with no intention of returning. You guys, they were so serious about this, they even missed my wedding, okay? They were in Africa when I got married. Now, granted, Josh and I had like a 5-week engagement, so we didn't give them much time to plan, but still, they were so serious about their calling to Africa. However, based on some things changing and shifting and going on, they did have to return to America. And I missed them so much, and I'm like, well, why should they go back to Nebraska? They sold everything. So I talked to my husband, and Josh, my husband, literally suggested that they live with us. I mean, what person says, yeah, move your in-laws in? I don't know. My saint-like husband, I guess. But 16 years later, they are still living with us. You guys, we have experienced all the seasons with them, okay? We've experienced the seasons of no kids, and we would go on double dates with them. It was so fun, and my mom had so much energy, and she'd do all the laundry and all the cooking. I mean, that was dreamy. And then we were in the season of having kids and newborns and babies, and me desperately needing sleep, and my mom being there, and me needing help. And then we went through the season of my mom getting cancer. And the tables were turned, and I had to be her caretaker and nurse until she healed. And then now we're in the season of us getting older. Our kids are getting older, and quite frankly, our parents are getting older. In 2017, Josh's mom passed away. And when that happened, his dad was on the farm because he was also from a farm community, and his dad wasn't able to care for himself on the farm. So after talking with his sisters and praying, guess what? Alan moved in with us. I mean, why not? It's like the Brady Bunch. But, you know, having Alan moving in, it definitely changed our dynamics. Unlike my parents, he was very slow in everything that he did. I mean, slow to move, slow to talk, slow to think, slow to make decisions. He was quiet, and he just needed a lot of assistance in every way. So now here we are, all of us in our own different spaces and places, but in our home, and we're a family of 7. So over time, everybody continued to show signs of aging, right? And after living with us for 6 years, Josh's dad, Alan, started falling. And he would fall once, and then it would happen again. And pretty soon, we started finding out that he needed 24-hour care. And that became pretty stressful for the whole family. I mean, my parents even, they were home most of the time so they could help take care of him, but my mom is a rule follower. And she was there when the physical therapist said, Alan, this is how you get in the chair and out of the chair. So when the physical therapist wasn't there and Alan did what he wanted to do, my mom could not handle that, and it caused stress. So either way, seriously, what ended up happening is we had to move Alan out, and now he lives in an assisted care facility. So my parents are still independent for the most part, but little by little, they are needing our help more and more too. And, you know, it's beautiful because over the years, I've seen this beautiful exchange between all of us, serving, receiving, taking, giving. It's been 15 years that my parents have been living with us, and I am so grateful for the time spent together. And I'm so passionate, and I deeply value intergenerational relationships because, quite frankly, in our lives, I have seen the fruit of it. Now, there is a sacrifice that often comes with following the assignments of God, but with that sacrifice, fruit is still produced. So I'm going to share our theme verse with you again. It's from Colossians 1:9-10, and it says this: We continually ask God to fill you with the knowledge of His will through all the wisdom and understanding that the Spirit gives, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please Him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work. You know, we were designed and created to bear fruit in all of the work that God's assigned us to do. Just like a fruit tree or a grapevine is created to bear fruit, so are we. So when I'm talking about seeing fruit from having my parents live with us, what am I actually talking about? Well, let me first tell you what bearing fruit is. Okay, bearing fruit is this. I'm going to give you a couple of them. One, it's the releasing of God's grace and favor in everything that we do, Colossians 1:10. It's also an expression or outpouring of the Holy Spirit. You've heard of these before: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. The fruits of the Spirit. When we are living in these, that is showing that fruit is coming forth from us. Galatians 5:22-23. Another example of bearing fruit is growing and spreading the gospel. So when our lives are doing that, we are bearing fruit. Colossians 1:6. Living out the will of God is another one, Colossians 1:9. Loving others, living in peace, forgiveness, healing, living in freedom, that is the will of God for our lives. And then the last one I want to share with you is becoming more Christ-like, Galatians 2:20, where it says it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me, right? You know, as my parents and Josh's dad have lived with us, we have seen fruit, okay? Now let me give you a couple of examples of specific fruit in our lives. The first one, quite frankly, was mental sanity for me. Because when I felt like there was no way I could make it another day with my strong-willed 3-year-old, I could take a minute to breathe. I'd leave him with my mom. I'd go, have a little space, and I came back and I hadn't lost my mind. My character grew as I chose to express love to Josh's dad, even when he wasn't really able to express love back in return. My kids have developed authentic kindness and care for my parents. This is so beautiful. When my mom, for example, is downstairs and she's needing to bring up the basket of clean laundry, you guys, for real, Caleb is the first one to run down and grab it from her to carry it up every single time. He leaves playing or doing what he does to go help her because she's older and he just has a respect for her. Another fruit that we've seen in our life is that Josh and I have a healthy and thriving marriage. Quite frankly, part of it is because we've been able to take date nights every single week because babysitting isn't an issue. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. It's the fruit. Now, like I mentioned before, the fruit didn't come without sacrifice, okay? I mean, I grieve the fact that I never have the house to myself, that we rarely have meals just the four of us, and at our dinner conversations, they're a bit filtered sometimes because my parents are sitting at the table. We have to navigate a lot more family conflict. I never have alone time when I'm at home. We share all of our spaces. We're not in a house that has like the mother-in-law suite, okay? We share our spaces and can't always do what we want when we want. Like, for example, Josh and I love to open the windows in the fall time because the air is so beautiful and it smells so good and the leaves. Well, in the morning, we do this in the morning, and in the morning, my mom comes out to the kitchen, and she's like bundled up in her big fluffy robe, and she has literally a stocking cap on, and she's coming outside, or coming out into the kitchen, and she's freezing, and she's also worried and concerned that she's gonna get sick. So what do? We gotta close all the windows, something like that. But the list of fruit could go on in our lives, but so does the list of things that we've had to sacrifice. But in the end, let me tell you this, please hear me. When you are living the assignment God has given you, whether it's creating time and margin to homeschool your kids, or whether your assignment is continuing to be a working mom and being a light in your workplace, or whether your assignment was like ours, inviting your parents to live with you, and you're living this assignment and this life with a humble heart in surrender to Jesus, you can expect to bear fruit. And to be honest, having my parents live with us, I have to tell you, it wouldn't have happened if we weren't connected to the vine, which is Jesus. You know, there is a grace given to us with this assignment that helped us navigate the uncomfortable times where we didn't see eye to eye on things. But when God calls you to do something, He will give you the grace to do it. That's why I don't tell everybody that they should have their parents move in with them. I mean, even as I'm talking about this, I bet many of you are probably feeling your heart rate increase, even just thinking about that. Truth be told, it is in our culture, okay? We don't have the culture and the mindset here in America that my Thai friends in Thailand do about the elderly. I mean, my friend Pink, let me just tell you about her from Thailand for a minute. Pink told me when I was living over there with her, she said she couldn't come to America because she had to stay home and take care of her mom. And I was like, what? Pink, that's your dream. Like, you dream about going to America. Go, be free, do all that you've been created to do. You're an adult. But the culture she grew up in said the oldest takes care of the parents and honors them in that way. And that trumps everything. And you know, for Pink, it wasn't like, boo-hoo, poor me, I don't get to pursue my dream. It was like, I have the honor of being the oldest and I get to take care of my parents and sacrifice for them. Isn't that amazing? Now, this idea of not being able to follow our dream right in that way may seem harsh to us in America, but part of me really kind of liked that and wanted to adopt honoring elders into my family culture. Now, when I was thinking about all that in Thailand, I was only 21 and I was single and I was traveling. I mean, but little did I know that 5 years into my marriage, my parents would move in with me and I'd actually have to live out my ideals on this. There's another verse that I grew up memorizing as a kid, and it's from John 5:15, and it says this. Jesus is speaking and says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I love this imagery of Jesus being a vine and us being the branches on that vine that bear fruit. Okay, so let's talk about grapevines for a minute. Did you know that wild grape varieties have been used in society since prehistoric and biblical times? I mean, the grapevine was literally a common plant back in Jesus' day. And I love that He chose it to represent the relationship between Himself and us. Now, to have a grapevine, there's first a seed, obviously, that eventually forms roots. And then a trunk begins to form. And this trunk is permanent and is the support for the whole vine. This is what I think of when I think about Jesus saying He is the vine. He is permanent and He supports all of life itself. So we have the trunk and it develops arms, which are the short branches, okay? And on those branches, canes and spurs begin to grow here. All right, stick with me. I know this is science. I'm not a science person, but I think it's great to think about these things as we're talking about Jesus and us and our relationship. Okay, so we have buds now. These buds are beginning to develop, shoots form, then leaves, tendrils form, and then flowers and grapes are produced. This is a process. I mean, it actually takes around 3 years for fruit to even be produced. You know, growing in Christ and bearing fruit, it's also a process. And when it takes time, we have to give ourselves grace. Just because I'm a Jesus follower doesn't mean I'm always going to speak peacefully and patiently when the siblings in the back are arguing in the car, or I'm not always going to see God's favor in every circumstance in my life. But as we mature in Christ and we stay connected to the vine, there is this transformation process that's happening inside of us. And you guys, fruit just naturally starts to develop. It's not something we even need to strive for. It's just a natural occurrence. And it takes place when we're fully abiding in Jesus, when our hearts and minds are aligned with Him. Okay, so going back to my example of living intergenerationally, I too see this vine grape growing process. Okay, there were seeds planted way before I was born of grandparents and great-grandparents who were believers, and they all planted seeds of faith. And then there were my parents who continued to bear fruit. And then now here I am with my children and grandparents living intergenerationally together in the same home, learning to love and respect one another. And although it hasn't always been easy or comfortable, we are living in abundant fruitfulness. Did you know the grapevines have a long lifespan? I mean, the oldest known grapevine is over 400 years old, and it can be found in Yara, Slovenia. It still bears fruit, and it makes me think of the value of old age. So whether you're close with your parents and your grandparents or not, there is still a legacy that God has for each of our families that is to carry on for centuries to come. Some of us are living out the legacy that our parents and grandparents have sown for us. And some of us are planting the seeds for a new legacy. And it starts with us. Both are good works that bear good fruit. So I want to end with this final fact about grapes. All right, unlike other fruits, like pears or avocados, you have to be very careful when you pick grapes. Is avocado a fruit? I don't know. Well, we're going to say it is today. But you have to be very careful when you pick grapes. Why? Because they don't ripen off the vine. And so it is with us. We will not ripen off the vine. Our lives will not bear good fruit apart from the vine, apart from Jesus. So friends, stay connected to Him. Live out the beautiful assignments that God has for you and your family in this season. Be patient in the process. And in time, the fruit will come. And you too will be able to look back and see that your life has indeed been abundantly fruitful. Bless you guys.